All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We're back in session. Madam Clerk.
So we will continue with item 23, which is from the Planning Department to adopt a resolution adopting the Atkins-Calaveras County floodplain mapping study and the U.S. Geological Survey LIDAR topographic mapping, and adopting the Cosgrove Creek physical map revision and the countywide letter of map revision LOMAR case number 16-09-3078P and the FEMA revised flood insurance study, and adopting the base flood elevations as best available data.
Thank you very much. Apparently, the appellant has had to return, so I think we can discuss this with decisions with the information we have. I'm going to call for public comment on this issue right now. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for discussion and questions. Any questions, Supervisor Tofinelli, your lights on?
I would just move this item, Mr. Chair.
Okay. No further discussions. Motion made by Supervisor Tofinelli. Looking for second by Supervisor Clapp. Any public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for a vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed indicate by saying no. Hearing none, motion carries 5-0, unanimous. Madam Clerk.
Item 24 is from the Planning Department to introduce and waive the first reading of an ordinance amending two sections of Chapter 15.06 Flood Damage Prevention of the Calaveras County Code, and to adopt base flood elevations determined from the Atkins study, and to remove references to the Community Development Agency and Director of Community Development, and replace with references to the Planning Department and Planning Director as the FEMA Floodplain Administrator. Authorize staff to publish a summary of the ordinance before the second reading as required by law.
Mr. Maurer.
Don't really have anything further to add. The recommendation sort of speaks for itself. This is sort of the follow-up to the action that we took before. It does a little bit of minor cleanup in the ordinance itself. It formally incorporates these new map amendments into our flood ordinance, and it becomes official when the final adoption of the ordinance is done at the next meeting.
Okay.
I would like to add one thing that's really not on the agenda, but
right.
Supervisor Oliveira, I know that you're aware of this, but Deborah here has been nominated as Floodplain Manager of the Year by FEMA for all of her hard work that she has done on this program, as well as her assistance with hundreds of other citizens in getting them through the federal bureaucracy of getting floodplain clearance in many cases. So I just wanted to publicly make that known to you as well as the rest of the public, because she has really done an outstanding job in assisting the citizens of this county on getting through the maze of federal bureaucracy.
Thank you, Mr. Maurer. And I'd like to add, I received numerous phone calls and emails about the performance of Deborah, and I would personally like to congratulate her for her hard work and knowledge in this field. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I say a few words?
You may, sir.
Well, Deborah, you've been at this since 2010. You've been around, and you know when we started this to get it and how difficult it was, and you persevered and stayed in there. I really want to thank you so much. In the presentation the other day when I poked my head in and we went through, it just showed. You knew exactly where to go, what to do. You had all the information right there. Absolutely wonderful job you've done, and I also want to congratulate you on the fine job that you did.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any further comments by the board? Any public speaking on this issue? Any public comment?
Hi, Bill McManus. Excuse me. Going back to the time of 2009 and 2010, when a lot of people were upset with information they were getting based on FEMA flood maps, there was an individual who was not part of county government. He's a private individual, smart guy, looked into it for the benefit of the people of Calaveras County, his neighbors. He wasn't personally affected by it, and found out how wrong the FEMA maps were. He spent his own time and money and effort to bring this subject to light, that the FEMA maps were nowhere near accurate. That gentleman's name is David Tuno, and he spent a lot of time getting this before the board, before the public, helping people out because of the insurance requirements they were being forced to comply with that weren't legitimate. He saved the taxpayers of this county literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in insurance premiums through his personal, unselfish efforts. And I just want to add his name. It's an historical footnote, but I wanted to add his name as one of the pioneers in getting this thing straightened out, just for the record. And today he would not accept any thanks if you tried to give it to him. That's just the way he was. A great individual, and did a service for the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McManus. Any further public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would move this item.
Moved by Supervisor Tofinelli. Seeking a second.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Garamendi. No public comment. Okay, after not seeing any, I'll bring it back to the board for a vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed indicate by saying no. Motion carries 5-0 unanimous. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Item 25 is from the Planning Department to conduct a public hearing and adopt a resolution upholding the Planning Commission's denial of the appeal of the Planning Director's denial of commercial cannabis registration 2016-979 for Miguel Gutierrez on 7977 Goodell Road, Paloma, APN 016-003-109, file 2016979.
Mr. Chair,
Supervisor Garamendi.
if I may, I need to recuse myself from this. I run cattle next door to this site and just feel I couldn't have been an impartial judge on this panel.
Accepted. Thank you, sir.
I'll step out back for announcements.
Thank you. Mr. Mauer. I'm sorry, Mr. Mauer, or?
I'll be making the presentation with me as Ethan Turner from the County Counsel's Office. I see that Mr. Gutierrez is not in the audience. I don't see there's a representative for him either. I have a fairly detailed presentation, but I think I will dispense with that. Just briefly go over the issues that the Planning Commission raised. This was an appeal of cannabis registration number 2016-384. We noticed through site inspection a number of discrepancies, violations of the terms of the urgency ordinance. These included camping on site, inadequate fencing, unhoused generators, other violations of the code. They were given opportunity to fix it. They did not. Went back out there earlier this year, found that they had done additional new grading, and all of these led to the denial of the registration. It was appealed, went to the Planning Commission. The appellant did not appear at the appeal hearing. However, he did appeal that decision to you. He's not here again today, and so our recommendation is that you uphold the Planning Commission's decision to deny the appeal, which would therefore uphold the decision to deny the original registration by staff.
Any further, Mr. Eaton? Any comments by the board?
Over what period of time, Peter, was these site inspections done?
Original site inspection was done in August of last year, August 23rd. They inspected again in January, and further inspections were done in March.
And at no time was there any attempt by the appellant to make any corrections
No.
to the original inspection?
None that we're aware of. I mean, some were clearly continuing violations. The trailer that people were camping in, where they're only allowed to camp for a period of 14 days, is still on the site when it was first noticed back in August. That clearly violates the terms of the ordinance. Number of continuing violations.
Mr. Klepp, do you have, Supervisor Klepp, do you have any comments?
Yes, I have a question. Now, are we just denying his appeal, but what about the grading that's done there? Are they going to be having to do an engineer fill or get an engineer plan for as-built or, I mean, I see all these comes in, I see these pictures. I know that it's over 50 yards of dirt moved and we take the crop up, but we're still we still have the mess and the problem there. Are you guys citing them to make them
They have
correct
been
those?
cited. If the grower is not the landowner and the grower bails, then the landowner is responsible.
I have a couple of comments, questions, Mr. Mauer?
Sure. Mr. Turner.
Mr. Turner, have we determined whether or not, what type of communication was sent to the appellant? Was it a letter, registered letter?
Registered letter, he clearly received it because he filed an appeal. The date of the appeal, he was notified of that in writing.
Okay.
Plenty of opportunity to appear.
Was this land leased, rented, or owned by the appellant?
It's owned by a company that is the same name as his business. So his application was in his own name as an individual, but he also filed under a business name of the Atslan Group, and that is the landowner.
Is that a corporation?
Yeah, LLC, Limited Liability Corporation.
Mr. Turner?
Yeah.
The remediation process, should the board actually uphold this appeal? I'm take that back. Deny this appeal? What is code compliance next move on this?
Code compliance is already issued a stop work order and red tag to the site. The next step would be to issue a citation order to abate. And then that would be followed by administrative fines. But those administrative fines would not be for illegal cannabis cultivation, which is $1,000 a day. It'd be for ordinary code enforcement violations. Those citations could then be appealed to the Administrative Hearing Board, which would then make recommendations to this board, and then in order to abate would then issue an abatement warrant would follow. So this is just very preliminary stages of remedying this site.
And it is the code compliance procedure to proceed should this board deny this appeal, is that correct?
This appeal is merely of the planning director's decision to deny the application. The code enforcement track is an entirely separate track.
Okay. Do you have any involvement in that?
I would not be involved in ordinary code enforcement. I'm only involved in code enforcement's activities with respect to marijuana.
So the only way that would change would be if he started growing again this season and we found plants out there, then he'd be in violation of the cannabis cultivation provisions.
Okay, Mr. Mauer, should this board deny this appeal, could you see the code compliance as advised of this?
They definitely will be.
All right.
We keep them appraised of all actions on appeals.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Is there any public comment on this?
Yes, Bill McManus. Can I make a request that there, in the PowerPoint presentation in the packet, there was a photograph, it's figure 2. I have a question about that I couldn't make copies of this. Actually, I have 2 questions, that's all I have.
Stay right there, please. Mr. McManus, stay there.
He just asked me to...
No, just, Mr. McManus, I believe
I got you, Mike.
All right, no, there's something that's something that can be handled personally with Mr. Turner and Mr. Mauer.
There we go.
How does
Okay.
it pertain to this
Okay, we got it.
issue before the board?
You did what?
How does that pertain to the issue before the board?
Okay. I have 2 questions.
Okay, I'm gonna listen to your second one.
Okay. In the discussion/summary of the agenda submittal, it shows that the applicant, and there's a couple dates that show up here, applied for his application on July 12th, 2016. It was my recollection that June 30th, 2 weeks prior to that, was the end of the application period without exception. So my first question is this date true? And if so, under whose authority was an application accepted after the deadline? My second question is, and looking, it's kind of hard to see there, but I've got a close up here. What is that all about? I see elevated land, gravel, stakes, wire. Around the front, you see trenches with a dam at the back, brackish water on the front. It's on the left-hand side of that platform or mound. Evidence of flow coming down from the corner at the bottom of the picture, and it's strewn with empty containers. Now, is that the typical pot grow? Or did anyone take a look at this? Is this something that should have been taken care of? I mean, it looks nasty to me. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a very innocent way they do things. I don't know. But it looks real bad. So my question is, was that ever checked out?
Mr. Mauer, was that information presented to the Planning Commission when it was, his appeal was denied? Or was this photograph taken into consideration by that board?
This photograph was presented to the Planning Commission. This represents the illegal grading activity that was occurring on the site. This was a drying facility, apparently, that he was preparing. And this is clearly an example of the illegal, unauthorized grading activities that the ordinance was trying to prevent.
And this was documented in the board packet as a result of this appellant
Yes.
hearing towards the Board of Supervisors, correct?
This was included as an example of the illegal, unauthorized activity occurring on this property.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mr. Manager?
That's question 2. The first one was the application date. I don't know if there was a typo on the submittal.
I can respond to that if you'd like, Mr. Chairman.
I'd be glad to hear it.
So on the last day, on June 30th, we had people lined up outside the door. We took their application packet and their name and contact information, told them to come back because we could not process them all on that last day. And so the last couple of days, we actually were saying, make sure we documented that they were in line and prepared to submit on that date. And then we called them and say, okay, come on in and review. And it took us about 2 weeks to come through that huge backlog. That's why the actual application was filed on July 12th, but they were in line, prepared to submit on the 30th. We just did not have the ability to handle the numbers that came in on those last couple days.
Okay. Was that information discussed in the original appellant hearing by the Planning Commission?
I don't know if it was really germane to the hearing. It was just a question from the public, and just wanted to let you know, let him know that was the reason why. This issue has come up several times in the past. We've responded, and just in case there was a question in your minds, I wanted to ensure that you were aware of why there were some. We accepted the applications, or they were actually taken in on last day, but they were here and prepared to submit, but unable to because of our lack of resources.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mauer. County Council. Is the board to consider the information described by Mr. Mauer regarding the date, or is that something that this board would not hear, seeing it wasn't presented to the appellate board of the Planning Commission?
If it's new information, the board can either not consider it. If it doesn't affect your ultimate decision, then you don't have to consider it. It was, in fact, presented. It was part of the board packet. It was part of the information. I believe that I heard you say that it was part of the information that was brought forward to the Planning Commission. It wasn't necessarily discussed, but it was part of the record.
Right.
And if it's part of the record, then that is part of the record that's in front of this board to consider in this appeal hearing. So yes, the information is something that you can consider in making your decision.
Okay. Thank you, Council.
You're welcome.
All right. Any further comment from the public? I'll bring it back to the board for discussion. And who had their light on first? Supervisor Mills?
Your light's on. Only because it's happened to me personally, is that when there is a notice of violation, a stop work order, red tag, whatever it might be, that is creating environmental damage, I think that it would be important for the Sheriff's Department also to be aware that that is in existence, and as of this point, it has not been. And I think it'd just be very helpful when they make their responses to complaints from the citizens that they are aware that those stop work orders are in place. I think it would change the strategy a little bit. So just a point.
Supervisor Clapp, did you have a comment?
I made mine earlier.
Okay. Seeing no more comments, I entertain a motion.
I'd move this item for denial.
I'll second.
Okay, Supervisor Mills, motion the item for denial, seconded by Supervisor Tofinelli. Any further public comment? I'll bring it back for the board for a vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed indicate by saying no. Hearing none, motion passes 4 with one recuse. Thank you very much, Mr. Maurer. Mr. Turner? Recuse. Madam Clerk. Hi.
You want to wait a moment for Supervisor Garamendi to come back?
Could you hold on a minute?
I know Clyde doesn't have a boss, so he walked out the door to get me.
We'll take a moment. I will be in recess for 5 minutes. Well, I hope that wasn't the hot dog. Okay, we're back in session.
Supervisor,
Go ahead.
Supervisor announcements. In compliance with AB 1234, chaptered as Government Code Section 53232.3D, this is the time for board members to report on meetings attended on behalf of the county and to carry out their duties as a county supervisor.
I will start with Supervisor Tofinelli, if you will. I know you have to catch a plane.
I have nothing to report, Mr. Chair, other than aloha.
Supervisor Clapp.
I attended last Thursday Area 12 meeting, and Common Ground accepted a car from, I think it was 27 pot farmers. And so we tabled the item as a federal loan. So we tabled that until next month, so we get time from county council and stuff if we can actually accept the car at the same time we're doing that loan. I got a lot of face mail on it. People think I'm trying to take their chickens away and not feed old people. So I checked with Tim on it, and Area 12 did a press release on the matter, and it will be coming back next month, and hopefully we'll know as soon as I find out from Area 12's attorney. I will have them contact Megan, and she can review it. So that's about it. That's the only trouble I got you guys in this week.
Okay. Supervisor Garamendi.
I'm for old people and chickens. I'm sorry. I'm for old people and chickens. Busy week activities with the RCRC had a board meeting in Tehama County, which I attended. We toured a lot of local businesses, which was really interesting on how they're developing their rural economy. How we had a lot of common issues that we discussed as a group, from cannabis to tree mortality to education in rural areas. It's always nice going to these meetings because you find out we're not alone. We're not the only people facing these challenges. Attended an UMRA meeting at Party as well on the 28th, a mental health board meeting on the 2nd. And then last week I went down as a member of RCRC and lobbied the Capitol on some of our rural issues that we've always talked about here: tree mortality, cannabis, higher education, community colleges, and how people up here can access education. I think community colleges is something I'd like to take up this summer with this board and sort of begin talking to you all about the challenges that we face and maybe some of the opportunities that are out there. And then we had building official interviews on Friday. That's my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Mills.
Yes, on Tuesday, April 25th, attended Utica Water and Power meeting, talking about their power price and values under the REMAP project. April 27th, Thursday, attended the Destination Angels Camp breakfast in the morning for a project review, and attended the Calaveras Humane Society dinner that evening. April 28th, Friday, met with staff over the FEMA maps. May 1st, Monday, attended interagency emergency management training and met with staff to discuss status of our bus system as it relates to the budget. May 2nd, Tuesday, attended IEMC training again, put on by FEMA with the assistance of Cal OES. Wednesday, May 3rd, attended IEMC training and reviewed scenarios, attended a Council of Governments meeting. They're going to be bringing up a complete review of projects from COG in their next meeting, so I think it's important for us to be prepared for that. And May 4th, Thursday, attended IEMC training wrap-up. May 5th, closed session interviews on Friday. May 6th, Saturday, attended the 3rd annual Vintage Vallecito event with a community dinner in the evening, and attended the Copperopolis Lions Club Hot Copper Car Show. So at the end of this, I'd like to poll the board for a couple of items as well.
Okay. I attended the Calaveras County Fair kickoff dinner on the 26th. That was a great event. Also attended the Humane Society Appreciation Dinner with Supervisor Mills. Great organization, and I have been asked to be part of their consultation process for the new building, which I'm very proud and honored to be asked that. Apparently there's a consulting firm that is in charge of that process, and I'll be meeting with them in the next week or so. I have well, it's not really an issue problem. We have a situation in my district regarding some local businesses and some parking regulations that we're addressing. I'm happy to say that we've been able to come together and at least sit at the table and talk about it. And that's an ongoing situation. I did attend last night a mixer in the Arnold area by the Chamber of Commerce, and was able to address our local business folks. And I want to welcome and thank the folks that came all the way from Valley Springs to Arnold to attend that in the chamber, and it shows that our chamber is growing, and it's doing a good thing. We'd like to see that happen. On Monday, I attended a filming, if you will, for this damage up in District 3 by KPIX Channel 5 in San Francisco at the invitation of Chief Mike Johnson. They had sent a crew up to actually film the damage. They interviewed Chief Johnson, they interviewed Forest Service, they interviewed myself, and that actually airs, I believe, this coming Wednesday. I do have the link for that. And it was a good chance for folks in the Bay Area to see the extent of our damage up in this area, up in our foothills in our county. Hopefully that'll help in our FEMA meetings that were scheduled for Thursday, I understand, to review our storm damage, and specifically the issue of our Blagan Road Bridge in my district. Yesterday I attended the Governor's Task Force on Tree Mortality in Sacramento. Basically, we haven't seen a lot of progress, if you will, but they're really engaged in the insurance portion of that as far as finding ways to fund that for the private lot owners. We met with the various agencies, CAL FIRE, PG&E, Caltrans, Forest Service. And I just want to ensure everybody is aware of what's happening and we're going forth, but unfortunately the wheels turn slowly. I will not be able to attend the local tree mortality meeting tomorrow scheduled, but Supervisor Garamendi will be attending that, and he's got my information from the Sacramento meeting from yesterday. And I also was able to participate in a very short period of time with the Peace Officer Memorial Services in Sacramento, and that was very impressive. We had police officers from all over the state of California and even farther away. So that's about it. Supervisor Mills, you had a poll?
Yes, it was important from COG that we received community letters of support from districts 3 and 4 on the FLAP grant application for the Wagon Trail project, and the due date on that is this Friday. So we need to probably step up and say whether or not we are going to offer a letter of support for the funding, federal lands project funding. And it's not on the agenda, so I don't know quite how we want to do that, but I just was asking if the board would be interested in having that discussion.
Madam Clerk, didn't we issue a letter of support on the board?
I believe so. I believe that was on the March agenda. I don't know which meeting off the top of my head, but my understanding is that what is requested is a personal letter of support from District 3 and District 4.
Right.
Not from the board. The board has already provided that.
Okay, so a reminder. Secondly, there is a new bill going through Congress. It's H.R. 23. It has to do with the federal control of the federal water projects in California and how they want to disassociate themselves from the state water projects. So you might want to look up H.R. 23, but it brings up another point, and that is legislative oversight. This board, I think, can be very helpful in providing letters of support or letters of opposition on specific issues that will affect this county, and so we should be keeping our ears open for issues that are coming up that we might be able to provide some influence and direction on in the future. I know that it was brought up previously, but I would like to continue the consideration whether the CAO should be given the authority to hire and fire non-elected department heads. I think that giving him that power will provide us with a better and broader range, and so at some point, hopefully this board will consider it. The last item is the concern about having 1791 not included in the proposed ban ordinance, and what effect that will have on us, because at the end of 2017, if we haven't done something about that, that could very well play into the state controlling our future on dispensaries. So I'd like to know whether or not the board would be interested in including 1791 or portions of it in the discussion regarding our proposed ban ordinance. As we had stated, we were going to have a ban to only comply with the minimums that were required by state law. And those are my concerns.
If you're pulling the board, I'd be for the last two that you just mentioned.
Excuse me, gentlemen. Council, we have a meeting scheduled for the 30th of May, a workshop. Is that the proper venue to discuss this?
Is it the 30th or the 31st? The 30th is a night meeting, and certainly if the board directs staff to put it on that agenda, staff can agendize that for discussion on the 30th. Just so the board is aware, I will not be there for the night meeting.
Okay. I seem to recall Supervisor Tofanelli, you indicated you wanted to have a workshop. Is that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Would that fall into that realm, Council? A workshop regarding the draft proposal?
Certainly, if the board wants to hold a study session, whether it be an action item or just a presentation for direction, that can certainly be included as an item for that meeting. The direction would just have to be given to staff to prepare for that item.
Yeah, I believe that direction's already been made, hasn't it, CAO?
Yeah, if I could just add, my suggestion was that to make that meeting the most productive possible, that we put together basically an agenda where we structure the first hour to talk about county impacts, department impacts. Then we have the second hour to talk about either, and again, I think we can go for a number of different items depending on what the board would like to see, but issues on what we might be missing from the ban ordinance, and then open up a time for public comments on broad range of either pro or against, and hopefully structure that so that people can talk to specific elements that they want to address. My feeling is, just based on how broad this topic can go, having an agenda at least to provide some structure will at least help with flow and make sure we don't run until 3 a.m.
That's good. Supervisor Tofinelli, you need to talk, I know.
The light's on. If it's okay with the board, I would like to spend some time with Tim to structure that portion presented, since I asked for the study session to be here. And I can go through with him and structure how we can get that accomplished, and where we're trying to focus and go to.
All right.
If that's
Any
fine.
comments by the board?
No
Do
problem.
we need a poll, council? Or can we just make that assignment?
It's just one of us.
Yes or no?
You can certainly poll the board
Okay.
and have Supervisor Tofinelli work with
All right.
CAO.
Okay, I don't think we need a poll on this. I think we can just make the assignment. Supervisor Mills, as to your comments on, I guess, 1791,
Right.
can that be covered? Did that answer your?
Well, I think that as long as that is included in the discussion, so we don't miss that piece, because there are some gaps, and I think that 1795 does speak to some of it, but it doesn't speak to all of those gaps. And we just need to be sure we have a complete and thorough discussion about this whole issue
Okay.
going forward.
All right. I think that's pretty clear.
So the-
Anybody have any confusion on that? I think we're all in agreement. Any further from the board on that issue? Staff, any reporting out?
I would just add, echoing what Red Cross mentioned this morning, last week's FEMA training I felt was really beneficial. I think it brought a lot of departments together to talk about communication, things that we should be focusing on, lessons learned. Yesterday at the department head, we did a roughly 45-minute debrief where we could go around through each of the departments, kind of discuss takeaways, concerns, and what we want to look at on a going forward basis. I know we're coming up on budget, but I also think it's relevant to the budget discussion. I'd like to schedule in the next few meetings sometime an opportunity to bring the OES program forward to the board to discuss structure, staffing, and kind of look at a broader framework of how we're managing emergency operations across the county.
All right. I have no objection to that. CEO, thoughts? Madam Clerk.
So I just wanted to thank everybody for participating in Government Center Frog Jump today. We had a record number of 85 jump entries, and the entry fees are designated to go to the Humane Society and Friends of Calaveras Animal Services. I wanted to particularly thank CAO Lutz for being our master of ceremonies today and moving things along. I was not optimistic that we would get everyone done in 2 hours, and you did better than that. I'd also just like to thank the members of the Spirit Committee and the volunteers who did the cooking, did the setup, did everything that they could to make it a great event. So we couldn't have done it without them.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, no further comments. We are adjourned. I'll open back up for public comment.
Good afternoon,
Hang
Vicki.
on, let's get everybody ready. Ms.
Oh,
Rankin.
okay.
We're not done. Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, Vicki Ranke, Angels Camp. I have a question based on what was just discussed, because I'm not real sure. Okay, the process for approving the ban ordinance. Okay, I remember we were waiting for the ordinance to come out, which it has. We were waiting for the EIR to come out, which it has. Now there's certain dates that we, as the public, can make comment. And then my understanding was it was supposed to then go to the Planning Commission for their review and their recommendations. And then, I want to make sure I have this, but then it goes back to the Planning Department to fix it? No. So then it just goes from the Planning Department with any of their comments to the board? Is that right? So anyway, my one question is, the workshop, how does that work in? Because usually a workshop will take public comment, but it affects something. So what is that workshop going to affect, I guess is my question.
Well, I'm calling for a study session, and normally study sessions, there's no action items on it. It's just a study session to give out information. I think we're all interested in the impacts that the urgency ordinance and where we are now has on all departments. And to go into part of this, and so we have all that information when this all gets back to us. Plus, there is some time here for public comment to come forward and give their statements on what either regulations or what else they'd like to see in the ordinance, and give them an opportunity to come forward and give their thoughts on how they would envision the ordinance to be finalized.
Okay.
So, but there's a lot of things, I think Peter will be involved in presenting some of the things, the ordinance.
Could you
and-
push his mic forward so we can, there it is. Sorry, Gary.
Going forward, so everybody understands it. I think the presentation of, everybody reads things, and everybody reads things differently, even though the same words are there. We want a presentation here so people are aware of what it says, what we're going about doing, and an opportunity to at least come up to the microphone like you are and give their 2 cents on what they would like to see the ordinance look like. That's my thoughts on it. And perhaps there will be, a lot of good ideas on crafting into this thing. I know a lady last meeting stood up where you are, near the end of the meeting like this, and gave her thoughts on the ordinance and what she read it and what she would like to add to it or see be add to it. Even today, Mr. McNanus stood up and asked about the dispensaries being included in it. So these are all the information we would like to see and hear. So we have that, it doesn't hurt to have too much information as we're going forward, and when it comes back to us, that's the thought that I had on it.
Okay.
Okay?
Good, that kind of clears it up so we know the process. Thank you.
All right. Is there any other public comment, or? Now, I'm going to try this one more time. I think we're adjourned. Sorry. It's all right.